somebody who's always tried to pride myself on being bipartisan. I can tell you around Virginia, programs are not being hit based upon whether they voted for a Democrat or Republican. Our national security and FBI is being hit across the board. We desperately need Republican officials at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level to stand up for rule of law and to say, you want to bring efficiency, count me in. I was very proud of the fact when I was governor, Virginia got named the best managed state. I'm all about efficiency and finding reasonable ways to cut costs. But this sledgehammer approach, which is unlawful and is going to chase away some of the best talent we have in the government, that's going to weaken our security, that's already weakened the FBI in terms of its expertise, is treading on extraordinarily dangerous grounds. And I appeal to folks across the state, if you are a community leader or other, people need to stand up and speak out. I hear from some local leaders, I hear from businesses, well, if they just keep their heads low, maybe this will pass by. This is not a time to keep your heads low. This is such an indiscriminate attack on rule of law, on our nation's payment systems, on our nation's privacy, and our nation's law enforcement, that if you've got a time to raise your voice, it's now. President Trump won this election in many ways because we didn't make the border secure enough. And I've supported strengthening the border. I even have supported, imperfect legislation, the so-called Laken-Riley Act, that says if you have committed a crime, that ought to move you towards, and you're undocumented, that ought to move you towards deportation. But what I didn't sign up for, and what I will fight tooth and nail against, are ICE officials coming into our public schools, coming into our churches and synagogues and mosques, coming into our community health centers, and raiding those items, and what appears to be the case, sweeping up people based upon what they look like, not their legal status. We already have in most of Northern Virginia, since this fear has spread across the community, absentee rates that have approached in some jurisdictions 30-35%. You've got kids in schools that were just starting to come back from all the disruption caused by COVID. And now you send this fear across other communities where kids aren't showing up for school. At some point they're going to come back to school. If not, they're not going to be as productive members of society. But they're going to fall further behind because of this fear that if you go to school, the schools may be raided. We have to stand up against this. I would ask, I know the school boards have expressed concern. I hope, local parent organizations, this is about parent rights. Your kid ought to be able to go to school safely. This is, I can assure you, you get into the Department of Education and you suddenly give these 19 to 25-year-olds, which is the way these Doge kids have been described, access to all the personal files in the Department of Education. Do you really want that 20-year-old kid reading your financial standing about whether your kid got financial aid or not? And I can assure you, they're not just going to read files of folks who've got names that appear to be immigrants. This is time for people to step up and speak up. I had this whole notion that I hear this a lot from the business community, and I think it is disgraceful. Well, if we just keep our head low, just be quiet, maybe we can ride through this. That was the opinion people had before other great conflicts across the world, and that never played out very well.